So it is my pleasure to officially welcome each and every one of you to this very important conversation with Cindy Skalicki about executive presence. Okay, so executive presence and how to elevate yours in 2025. So we're going to talk all about things related to how do you show up in meetings, presentations, interviews. Would they describe you as having executive presence? Do you feel 100% in command with your audience? Or do you feel distracted, trying to recall maybe what you were going to say, what slide you're on, worried about how people are perceiving you in that moment? All of these things. And I know that we talked about this when we were introducing this event on our website. And, I'm just really personally incredibly interested to learn about this and really figure out a way around that problem when, the wheels are spinning and it's really difficult to know exactly what it is you're going to say next. I think all of us have experienced this. And, as we were talking about before this session got started, now more than ever, this is very important that we feel that we're in control and we have that presence and we have a voice and we know what we're going to say and we have something to say. So this is really great timing and I can't wait to benefit from everything Cindy is going to share with us and to bring this to our community. So before I turn the stage over to Cindy and we dive in and we get going, for those of you that don't know, just a little bit about the fourth effect. The fourth effect is a little bit, so we like to describe it kind of as a LinkedIn 2.0, but meeting kind of Match.com or Bumble for boards and investment. We have around 1,000 pre-seed through Series A startups that are inside this ecosystem. We're really helping founders of new scaling companies understand what advisory boards are, what governing boards are, how those boards connect to fundraising, and then simultaneously really making sure all of the talented people who want to help those startups and take seats on the advisory boards and on the governing boards and maybe write some checks along the way. We want to make sure all those people really understand how this all works, get everyone together, give everyone the same syntax, vocabulary, and common community so that these relationships can happen, which is really at the center of all of this. Community powered is how we like to describe it. Community is really important. No one is putting you on your board and no one's writing you a check if they don't know you. So anyway, that's what we're about at the Fourth Effect. If you are not right now inside a premium member, we invite you to do that. We have a free trial now, so you can sign up through our website. We'll share the link. And for 1 month free trial, then it converts over to a membership. We also have Board Bootcamp coming up on December 3rd. So for those of you who are members, maybe you've come in the past, you haven't come in a while, maybe you've never come. Even if you're not yet a member, you can come to Board Bootcamp. So we'll share the link for that. For members, it is free. Everything is free for members. If you are not yet a member, we'll share a code that will bring that price down. We also, when you get started, if you're just joining us or you're a new member, we have platform tours twice a week from noon to 1 Eastern Standard Time, Mondays and Thursdays. So we invite you to come to those platform tours. It's great networking. It's a great way to really kind of get started on your free trial. And then last thing I would say is that once you are a member, and if you are a new member, we're speaking to you. We are very hands-on. We have brainstorming sessions. That's what we call them, every Friday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. The Fourth Effect team is there to help you and guide you and really give that, individual attention to make sure that you are finding value in this universe that we've built. So if you are a new member or you join us, please take advantage of that so we can get you off to a great start. So that's enough about the Fourth Effect. Let's get to the point of today. It is my pleasure to now hand the stage over to Cindy Skalicki. Cindy, I know that you are frequently invited to address leaders at all sorts of companies, including, I know there's a big long list, Google, DuPont, Microsoft, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are so grateful to have you here. So with that, let me stop and let me hand the floor to you.
Thank you so much, Breen, and thank you, Kat, for having me today. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a power-packed session on executive presence. What is it? Do you have it? Why do we need it? And how do we do it? I would love to invite folks to come on camera if you're available and give a couple of housekeeping suggestions. We have the remaining 53 minutes together. There's a lot happening. And there's a lot happening on your computer and on your phone and in your brain and in your heart. And I invite everyone to allow yourself this time to come into a retreat space of sorts and be present. So if you're going to be here, be here. That's something one of my coaches says to me a lot. And I pass that to you because we're going to do a lot of really valuable work today. And we're going to move quickly because I brought so many goodies. So, Breen, I wrote this, I scribbled it down what you just said. No one is writing a check or putting you on a board if they don't know you. Dang. That is really true. And so part of executive presence has to do with showing people who we are through our actions, our behaviors, our sentence starters, how we sit, how we move, how we speak, the words we choose, the clothes we wear. All of these are our package of executive presence. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to give you an introduction a little bit just so you know who I am and why in the world I am here to talk about this. And then I'm going to share some slides. This is being recorded. I will have some free gifts for you. Some QR codes are going to be popping up. So catch the recording if you missed any of those or want to take some screenshots of some of our really valuable slides toward the second half. Sentence starters are some of our really most favorite slides. But in any case, I'm Cindy Skalicki, and I am calling in today from Fort Collins, Colorado. I've lived here for 17 years with my husband and our 4 children. I'm originally from the Chicagoland area. I have been running On Point Communications for the last 9 years, and I have a weird background. I am a rhetorician. I am someone who has studied persuasion at its inner core and deepest depths. I am like a message engineer. I take a hard, close, deep look at the message and the messenger. That's you. And I figure out what gears are flowing smoothly and running on all cylinders and where the gears are stuck. What's preventing you from getting what you want from your audience, and how can I help unstick them? Some of the big gears that are stuck are frequently storytelling, presentation skills and nervousness, and one is executive presence. And that's something we're going to talk about today. I have some interaction today, so get your fingers ready to go and moving around. We're going to drop some stuff in the chat. And Kat, I don't think I mentioned this to you. I can't remember if I did. If I can get to it in time, I have a quick 5-minute breakout where we could stick people in pairs. So I'm giving you that heads up in case we can do that. And if we can't, we will wing it and it'll be just fine. So we're going to move quickly. And this is just a chance for us to gather together and think about what it means to master executive presence. You can find me here at my LinkedIn page. You can follow us for video tips at our company page. But this is one of our most popular sessions. And I think by the time we're all done today, you will see why. What I would like you to do is think about your calendar this week. What's on it? Who are you going to talk to next, where you would like to kind of elevate that executive presence toward others? Executive presence, as you'll see soon, it's not something we get to say that we have. It's bestowed upon us in a sense. People say, oh, she's got really high executive presence. She's just polished, savvy. He's really on point, clear, confident, but approachable, authentic, vulnerable. So these are some of the qualities I hear when people say, what's the first word that comes to your mind when you think of executive presence? So I want to tell you a quick story. This is a picture of an owl, a great horned owl near my home. I love owls. I don't know why, but I love owls. And I had kind of this dream or goal from the time I was young that I wanted to see one in the wild. I'd only seen them in zoos, and this is just something that I really hoped one day I would be able to do. I took my daughter's big camera with the fancy lens over to this neighborhood, this street near me, where I learned we had a family of 5 owls living in some trees. And I caught this photo and I got the owl in flight. And I'm telling you, I was on a high for weeks. I was like, oh my gosh, I got this picture. It's so amazing. It's the most beautiful picture I've ever taken. Look at this. It's amazing. And then about a year and a half later during the pandemic, I got another picture that's so much better. And I'm telling you this because we're going to take you today, teach you the tools today to go from 1.0 to 2.0. So I actually took this picture of this incredible owl coming off of the rooftop, headed toward his prey, with an owl underneath him looking up, with the sky as bright as can be, and his eyes locked on something or someone. So I take this storyline in to say, where are you at your 1.0? What's your amazingness around your 1.0, you 1.0, and how do we kind of get you up to that 2.0 so that in 12 months you are that new person, that new individual, that leader who can do the things that you want to do. And the way that we do that is by thinking about that 2.0 person, identifying his or her qualities, and we begin to slowly take those as behaviors and start practicing them. And you'll see that over the course of 6 months, 12 months, you have suddenly become that you 2.0. And then we build you 3.0, and so on and so forth. So, a little quick background, I work up and down the whole flagpole of innovation, and that's one of the reasons I'm really excited to be here today. I work with startup founders all the way up through pre-seed, seed, mergers and acquisitions. I've coached fund managers through VC Lab who are building their own VC funds. I work a lot now in corporate America, as I've shared with Kat earlier, and we work with leaders on their ability to become top 5% executive communicators. This is a smattering of some of the teams and people and logos we've shared. A lot of these are little logos of small companies and startups. And then we began to grow into more and more corporate entities and teams and work with people to bring them alive, to share their personal brand story and their company brand story. So now we're going to do a little bit of work. This is a post I shared about a month or so ago, and I stuck it in the post that promoted this exact event. And I just want to have you type one of the numbers in the chat that most resonates with you. Okay, so it says, I'm not trying to be a jerk. That's true. These are 10 of at least 100 behaviors our clients need help to rewire. Which of these can you reverse this week? So I'm going to read these quickly and just drop a number in the chat. Which one resonates with you? Number one, start sentences with so, yeah, or you have trouble with filler words that get in your way. Number two, in meetings, do you say kind of those cliche phrases? And I just dropped a couple here: piggybacking, echoing, double clicking. These are just a few that come up a lot that personally I find to be, not as sturdy as what we could be doing, which is just picking authentic, direct words, right? Number three, do you jump right off of slide 2 of your PowerPoint and go straight into data and words, or can you tell a story? Do you have a story slide? Do you talk too fast? Do you interrupt occasionally? Do you stand behind the podium and not know what to do with your hands or arms because you're not sure? And that's a big piece that we talk to people about. Do you read your slides? Apologize for being late or nervous. Do you go into the weeds? That's a big one. Number 9, I tell too much detail. I don't know when to stop. Number 10, do you drive toward your solution at all costs instead of kind of listening to others? If you could drop a number in the chat for me, what would you be working on today? What's coming up in your mind? A few here. 1, 2, 8. Yeah. Okay, we've got some 2s. Yeah, fours, fives. Yeah, all over the map. 4 and 5, talking fast. Yeah, so common. A sign of executive presence is actually slowing your pace and having that sturdiness and having that knowledge that you can be quiet and you're not afraid of someone jumping in to say something, and you know your message so well that you can deliver it with a slower pace. So that's actually one tip you could try today. Volume helps a lot. If you can be nice and loud in a room, especially, and even on Zoom, how can you play around with your pacing in your next meeting or presentation? Okay. So, where is executive presence? Well, it's everywhere, but here are a few places where leaders come to us to ask for help with it, right? Maybe you have a board interview coming up, or you have someone you're going to interview and you're going to evaluate their executive presence. Maybe you're pitching, maybe you have customer meetings. Maybe you need to give feedback to a team member and you want to do it without them knowing you're nervous. Because you know what? Sometimes we're nervous to give feedback. That's hard, even in emails. And when you're not even there, your executive presence might be part of the room. And I'll give you an example of that. Sometimes when you're not at the meeting, whatever the big meeting is, people are having a discussion of some sort about a decision that needs to be made. And once in a while, I've heard people say, you know, I'd really like to know what Sarah thinks about this. Can we get her in here? And that's a sign of someone having executive presence when they're not even there, because their opinion is crucial. And people kind of wait to hear what that person says, whoever that person is, before they kind of formulate or consolidate or crystallize their own opinion. So what about you? Drop a day in the calendar, a date, drop something in the chat right now. Look at your calendar. What is coming up? What could you think about right now for the next 40 minutes that you would like to polish? You can tell me the date. You can tell me who the audience is. I would love to see what is happening in your world. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to come up with something. Drop it in the chat. Nice. Board meeting. Oh, today. Sweet, Christy. We're going to get you dialed up. A pitch, a board meeting, pitching a robotics company to public and investors. Okay, continuing to do that. Yep. November 8th meeting with 2 GPs. Ooh, that's a couple days away. Friday. Oh, nice. Nice, Kat. Selling retreat packages. Great, great, great. Okay. Yes, keep those coming. That's great to know. I want you to think of that event while we're going through this today so you have a way to attach the skills we're going to learn to something that you can try out. So much of skills building has to do with trying it out and getting the at-bats for how to do something new. You know, improving executive communication skills is not an overnight thing. We are changing behavior, and your behaviors have been with you for how long? Decades, right? So that's why we have to take it one step at a time, one at bat at a time, and commit to trying one new tactic in your next meeting that you learned today, and then continue to try that out. Give yourself feedback. Think about how you felt, how it landed. Did you notice something that someone else said differently that you think might have been because of what you tried? Okay, so those are some of the ways we can embrace change and do a lot of it on our own. That's something that Christine did. She's one of my clients. She's in a PE firm. She's the people person at a PE firm in New York City. This was after our first session together. We worked on how to set an agenda in a big meeting. And she said, oh my gosh, it went so well. One of the most senior partners below the managing partners said, thank you for running that meeting more effectively than any partner meeting has ever been run in the history of the firm. So I want to share this because of her win and how she felt about it. But I also want to tell you that in some instances, the bar is a little low, friends. Like all she did was talk about setting an agenda and telling people what she was going to walk them through in the 1 hour meeting. And this is what so many people don't do. We don't guide people, we don't take command of meetings or pitches or conversations the way the audience deeply desires that we do. Every time you get in a meeting, what are we going to do? And I'm going to tell you what we're going to do here really quickly. But this is what Christine and I worked on. This is our path to getting leaders to executive presence and 5%, top 5% executive communication skills. So you and I today, we're doing the one in the blue circle. But what we do for leaders is help get you from all three sides of this triangle, from those red words that you might be bringing as a problem area. I take leaders through all of those other layers into the center. And you don't have to know how I do it or when we're going to do what. I just need to know your goals, what you want to become, who that 2.0 is, and then I will pull you through from formal presentation skills to informal executive presence skills to mindset. We cover you. Okay, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to fly through the first two pieces here, and then we're going to spend the majority of our time in the ninja moves, and we're going to do a little breakout session. The ninja moves are the pieces that you're going to want to take screenshots probably of, because they'll help you and give you the words. So much of the work our leaders tell us they love is that we can give them the words. What are the words? How do I do that? Well, let's think about it. Let's lay out some sentence starters. Let's think about what point you should lead with. How can you tell that story shorter, sharper? Where can you leave detail out? All these kinds of things are ninja moves that we bring to the table. So, 3 keys of persuasion and influence. I'm going to run you through the definition of the word rhetoric. Kind of a hot button word right now. It's often used as a negative word about political rhetoric or fiery rhetoric. And that grates on me, my friends, because that is not the essence of rhetoric. Rhetoric is beautiful. Rhetoric is the art and science of persuasion. And it's a theory that's rooted deeply in the goodness of what communication ought to be. Okay, so that's what I studied all through my undergraduate and my master's degree. I studied rhetoric, and Aristotle is the father of rhetoric. And I'm going to read to you the definition. He said, of the modes of persuasion furnished by the spoken word, there are 3 kinds. The first depends on the personal character of the speaker. That's you. The second, on putting the audience into a certain frame of mind. And the third, on the proof provided by the words of the speech itself. Or I would add, the slides of the deck itself, now that we're in modern day. So we have speaker, we have audience, we have message. These are the 3 keys of persuasion. And what we need to know about this is that you have power to choose how you're going to show up as the speaker with high credibility. Ethos is credibility. On the lower left, we have audience. How good are you at analyzing your audience? How good are you at sitting where they are sitting? By the way, most people are not good at this. This is the weakest letter of the triangle for pretty much everybody. And that's understandable, but we help you go in and we help you sit in their chair and in their heads. So often we are bringing people what we want to tell them. No. We need to bring them what they need to know. Where are they when it comes to your idea, what you're going to share? Where are they? How familiar are they? So we have a whole boatload of work usually that we need to do on audience, but it's fun because once you get in their heads and you give them what they want, we get this awesome engaging conversation, decisions, investment, board seats, the whole bit. This right side over here on the lower right is logos, which is logic or reason, right? Audience is pathos or heart. So we have to balance head and we have heart. We have to do both, and we start with heart. Okay. What is executive presence? Drop me one word that comes to your mind when you think of the word or term executive presence. Who has executive presence in your opinion, and why do you feel that way? What's a word, an adjective that would describe that? Let's see what you've got. Influence, gravitas, composure, dynamic speaker, credible, listening, yep, confident. All of those things. If we could do a word cloud, yeah, trustworthy. Love that. Prepared. Absolutely. And you are these things. Today, we're just taking you up a notch. So there's an interest. So I just gave you a definition of the word rhetoric. There is not a textbook definition of the term executive presence. So we have taken it apart into two separate words and created an acceptable definition to work with. So the word executive means directing or controlling the office of an organization. It is one who exercises managerial control. It is the executive, someone making the decisions, someone who has a lot of subject matter expertise. Presence is the bearing, carriage, or air of a person, a noteworthy quality of poise and effectiveness. So in this term, we have executive, which is head, and we have presence, which is heart. So we're already doing great because we're balancing these two terms, and we need to make sure we're pushing on those levers at the right times for the right reasons. So executive presence together is an intangible feeling that one can direct and control a situation. I love number 2 the most. It is a felt sense of authority. So that's where it comes into play, that we don't get to say, I have executive presence. It's something others grant us. And in the same way, when you present or you pitch or you have a conversation with someone else, you can certainly say, I nailed it, or I feel great about that presentation. But the ultimate effectiveness of your presentation is not determined by you, and it's not determined by me. It's determined by those listening. Did it land? Did we get what we wanted to get across? Across. So our audiences, that's really the core of how we can determine how we're doing. Okay. The feelings wheel is a common tool we use at OnPoint, and I use it in multiple situations. But today, I'll just go back to the presentation or the thing that you put in the chat about when you get to try this out next. And I will ask you the same questions I ask clients, which is, okay, let's just pretend you're already finished with the presentation, the pitch, the phone call, you're done. They've left the room, closed the door, or they've gone off the Zoom call. How do you hope your audience feels about you by the end? And how do you hope they feel about your message? That's different. They usually are similar feelings, but how do we hope they feel about you as a leader? And how do we hope they feel about what you said, your message, your proposition, your invitation to invest, whatever that might be? And those are the two questions that we pose every time we're about to start working on a message, because that's the goal. The goal is, well, you know what? I want to be trustworthy. I want to appear confident that I can take the reins from this. I was working with a team of 4 last month. They were presenting to the DuPont board of directors. And these were C-suite leaders. And I asked this question to them at the beginning of our 8-week engagement. And I said, how do you hope they feel about you? And they said, I really want them to feel like we've got this, and this whole strategy that we're implementing is safe with us. I want to feel like they can see me as a strong leader who knows his or her stuff. These are the kinds of things we kind of laid out. And then how do you hope they feel about your message? Well, I hope they feel that my message was tight. I hope they understood the flow. I hope they saw and heard the 10% I hope they kept. So 10% is all our audiences can typically remember from our presentations. 10%. 10%. That's not a lot. So we have to repeat we have to decide the 10% that we want to get people to remember, pick it out. What's the 10% message? And then we have to thread it and have people repeat it in different ways and say it so that we can make sure as best we can that they can remember that. Okay. Let's get to some ninja moves, okay? We're going to talk about what we can expect from a virtual setting for executive presence and an in-person setting. What does executive presence kind of look like? So let's start with in-person. What we're trying to communicate in-person situations are the words in black. Okay, we're trying to communicate to people that trust, intelligence, character, decision making, authenticity. And the way in which we do those things is in the blue boxes. Okay, so when we're in person, we need to make sure our nonverbals are polished, natural. Okay, proximity. The next word next to it is similar in terms of nonverbal communication. But for example, when you go into an event or you have a board meeting, where do you sit? Right? Do you sit in the center of the table? Is it a free seating situation? Do you sit in the center? Do you sit in the front row? Do you sit in the back row? Do you sit in that row of chairs that's not even in the row of chairs? Do you stand? That speaks to people. And I want to say that sometimes you should sit in the way back. And here's one situation where that's that's good. If it's maybe someone that you have mentored and you know they're nervous and they're going to speak, you might want them to know you're in the room and you're there supporting them, but you don't really belong up front raising your hand doing all this stuff when it's their moment. So there's sometimes that it's good to be in the back of the room and that's where you belong. But anyway, proximity is a very important piece. Full attention can be read by others through your eye contact, your posture, your ability to reflect back with good questions or restating what you've just heard someone say. Let me get this right. What I'm hearing is that you are reticent to invest because you think we need to add more to our executive team. Is that correct? Did I hear you right? Or whatever the regurgitation of the thought is, there are some ways that we want to be sure people know we're listening and giving them our full attention. Put your phones away, put your eyes up, these kinds of simple things, right? In a day of cell phones, I'm guilty as anybody else that it's hard to not go to that phone. The art of the toss is worth a second to talk about. The art of the toss is a communications image that I want you to leave today with. And if you can imagine me holding a red ball right now, because I'm the one talking, this would be me holding on to a big red ball. But what I would do when it's your turn to talk, Kat, I'm gonna toss you the ball. Kat, do you have a question about anything from today's presentation?
Are you,
I'm tossing.
I'm catching?
Yes.
Are you really asking me the question? Is my
Yes.
question? Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Ask me a question and toss the ball back.
Um, is it important for me to focus on the person I'm tossing it to with the new question? Does that make sense?
Toss it. Yes, I'm catching it. And the answer is yes. So I didn't tell Kat I was going to do that with her today, so I threw her off. But the aim, yes, it is important to think of the other person who's about to catch the ball and to make sure you give them a good question. And sometimes it's a softball question that you want to ask. Sometimes it might be a direct question. In any case, the point here is that you want to keep the flow going. Okay. And of course, I'm presenting today, so I have the ball a lot. But in an investor pitch or a customer conversation, a big mistake a lot of founders make is talking for way too much at the beginning of the meeting. Like, throw the ball, get someone's voice out there. That's one of the reasons that I like to chat with people in these sessions or see your faces. I want to engage with you. So when you're in a 30-minute meeting and all you have is 30 minutes to pitch your idea, if you're talking for the first 12, it's too long, my friends. It's too long. So we got to orchestrate it and figure out what's the anatomy of a meeting and how are we going to build in some back and forth to keep them engaged and make them feel important. So those are some strategies that we work on too. Okay, virtual is similar, but there's a couple little nuances here. We're still trying to do the same 5 black terms at the bottom of the slide. We're still trying to communicate all those same things through a virtual channel. Knowing your tools, for example, Zoom's my favorite. Microsoft Teams, I don't love. I've had problems with that one because for whatever reason. And, we've got Google Meet, we've got all kinds of tools we need to know and make sure we have control of those and feel confident with those. Order and flow in a virtual setting is a little harder oftentimes because we have slide decks that are up. I'm just a postage stamp in the corner of your screen. We need some engagement. Maybe you're typing in the chat, whatever you're doing. And it depends on the meeting type, right? I mean, I'm training something today, but a big, long, day-long event, we need breaks. We need people to be able to talk together, community building, trust building, relationship building, which is the next word. Building a relationship is absolutely possible through this little camera lens that I'm staring at right here and the green dot that I'm looking at. I have had people come into sessions. I've never met them in person, and we've shared lots of laughs and plenty of tears. So you can build lots of great relationships virtually. And then, of course, your nonverbal and your verbal communication skills are critical in any setting. From a virtual perspective, you get a little bit more leeway, right? Because you can maybe have notes with you that you wouldn't normally have. When your nonverbal communication tips, one of my nonverbal communication tips is to stand and deliver if it's a formal big deal. It changes your posture. Like my feet are shoulder width apart. I've got my weight evenly dispersed. I actually have lots better airflow when I'm standing. And it's really a brain trick because if I'm sitting here at this desk, I'm in work mode, typing mode, Slack mode. I'm not in presentation mode, and I don't feel the same. And so your brain is like, uh-oh, we're doing something important here. I'm going to try to be on. I'm going to be a little bit different with the audience I'm working with. So if you're pitching and it's a big thing or you're presenting something, consider standing. You will sound better and you will feel better and you will perform better. Okay. I'm going to ask you to pick a number, 1 to 10, to drop it in the chat. And I'm not going to read all of these verbatim in the interest of time. But I had a woman once who was moving into a high-level position out of a mid-level. And she said, Cindy, I'm going to an inner circle of 10 leaders. This is like, I have to go to this executive leadership meeting every week. And there's 10 leaders there, and I'm now the 11th. And they've all been there at least 5 years, some 20 years. And I am the new kid on the block. I don't even know how to get a word in edgewise without them feeling like I'm this immature. She had all these like head junk stuff going on. She's like, what can I say? So we worked on a slide together, sentence starters that will boost your ethos, meaning boost your credibility, that will make you sound strong from the start. So these apply, these 10 examples can be used in multiple different situations. And there are 90 more that we could add to this list, but they're to get your brain going. But go ahead and read through these so that you can sort of hear how these might sound. I'll just read the first 3. If our primary objective is X, then it makes sense to consider what we would do if we're moving toward Y and Z. So framing up at the beginning of the sentence, your first 5 to 7 words of a sentence, make them count. Get the attention of folks so that they can hear you're going to go somewhere with that sentence. Raise your hand if you have heard ramblers in meetings where you're like, oh my gosh, is this sentence ever going to end? People sometimes think to talk versus talk to think. You are one of those people. We all are. It pays to consolidate your thoughts. And I've got people who print this out, laminate it, and stick it next to their desks to help them in meetings. The word I keep hearing is whatever the word is. And that's a good sentence starter when there's dysfunction going on or confusion, or you just heard a word that lit up in your brain, it lit something up. And this is a confidence building one. Sometimes, especially women, we're kind of afraid to throw our idea out on the table because we're not sure what other people are going to think of it. And this is a powerful sentence starter when you're in a discussion and you hear a theme, you see a direction, and no one else can see it yet or is talking about it, but you keep hearing this word. What does everybody mean by that? Maybe that's our goal, whatever that is, but it's a boldness question. Number 3 is around trying to figure out unity and how to land the plane. Almost swore. How to land the plane. How can you get the meeting to a place where people are not arguing and having conflict? You know, as a team, we're all aiming to get the next event to hit 100 people. That's our goal. So everybody is doing a great job moving those parts that they need to. There are a few things we need to talk about, though. We need to eliminate this. We need to try to, whatever you're going to say. But like getting some of these sentence starters going helps you hopefully just recognize the importance of knowing what you're going to say before you start to talk. So which number lights up something in your brain today? Which number do you like that you might be able to try out coming up soon? Okay, 4, 9. Yeah, 9's a good one. Yeah, and usually okay, 3, is it 7? Good, yeah. Ultimately, we're trying to put a flag in the ground here by kind of, getting our opinion out there and making sure we've got something strong to say once we get the floor. So sometimes I've encouraged people, if they already know they need a sentence that they have to say in the meeting, write it out. Write it out and stick it on your screen so you can see it in the virtual meeting or even in your notebook, and say it out loud before you get there if it's a big, juicy, important thing. So we work through these kinds of things to make sure people feel comfortable. You could take a screenshot of this if you want to too, but this is a sentence starters for asking good questions. How can you stop asking 3 questions when 1 will do? How we start the question, what word we're choosing. Question asking is a skill. It's really important to ask good questions, and it requires a lot of knowledge about your audience and what actually you want to know. What do you want to know before you start asking these questions? Formulate that beautiful, juicy question one time versus having to ask it 3 different ways. I mean, this takes practice, right? But again, it's the at-bats. How can you try out some of these questions? These are areas where people often flounder. How about a number on this slide? What do you all feel would be a good one to try out? Number 6, I just want to explain. That could be any word. The word that's underlined, tangible asset, that could be any word. I mean, I'm not kidding. The other day, I have an operations person who came in and is helping me get us scaled up with some team members and get our organized systems going. And she said, I think we should have Amy be the project manager. And Amy and I were like, okay, tell us more. So she starts to explain this, and because we're like, I think she already is the project manager. I literally asked Tracy, what do you mean by the word project? Can you define that for me? What do you mean by project? So I know what the word project means, but this is just an example of how people use different words with different meanings, and we really need to make sure we have a common understanding of the terminology so that we're all on the same sheet of music. Okay. And these are also ways to ask questions so you don't feel stupid or sound like you don't know what you're talking about. So under number 8, I understand the what, but not the how. That indicates you understand the strategy or the mission, but you're not clear on the how. And guess what? The person who explained to you or tried to explain to you the how probably did a bad job explaining it. So it's important to know that people aren't really very good at communicating. Okay. And so oftentimes when you're asking a question, you just feel confident in that question. It is okay. It is the job of the speaker or the person running the meeting to do the best they can to be clear. If you're asking questions about clarity, it is not on you. more than likely. It is on the person who is trying to explain something. And more often than not, they say things like, oh, you're right. I totally butchered that. Let me go back. And they know because they're the ones who are in it, right? They are deep and they forget that you don't have the same familiarity, eyes and ears on the topic that they do. These are just basic tips on presentations and things that you don't want to do when you're presenting. Don't say you're nervous. Don't narrate tech issues. Don't ignore the clock. Call out typos. Make excuses or be overly reliant on your slides. It's just not a good look. And this is a quick tip on how to handle some virtual executive presence by using your screen real estate as a cheat sheet. So no, we don't use like each Post-it note to write out the whole script. These are like same as a slide deck. One main point per slide. And same here, one main point per Post-it note. If you need a little bit of cheerleading for yourself, if you need to remember to say a certain word or phrase, whatever it might be, but folks really like this one. Okay. What I would love to do we have 5 minutes, Kat, to spit people out into pairs? Okay. I would like to do this, and then don't go away yet because I'm going to give you some free gifts after we are done with that. I have a big workbook that I'm going to share with all of you at the end. But first, I want to have you think about a person in your life who you respect, admire, and hold dear, and who has displayed to you high levels of executive presence. Think about that person. I'll show you the person who is mine. This is Anne. This is my first boss, Anne Dooley. She's on my wall. She's my boss from BBDO Chicago when I worked in advertising at the turn of the century, literally. And she showed me so many things about what it meant to be a good leader. And there's lots of stories I have about Anne. But I want you to think about a person and take a picture with your phone or something if you want to remember these. But this is what I'd like you to just talk about with your partner in your meeting right now, the breakout room. Well, I want you to think about 1 and 2 and 3, and then I want you to talk in your meeting about 4 and 5. So who stands out? We already talked about that. Why? Can you list 3 adjectives or qualities? And then assuming you want to copy and paste at least one of those, which one? And then take that moment from earlier today, the date that you want to try to elevate. How are you going to say something new? What are you going to try? You've got your first at bat after we leave today's call to try something new. Bat it around with this person in the breakout room and get ideas flowing with one another. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to write down the answer to number 2. And then Kat, let's give everybody 4 minutes in the room because when you kick them out, it gives them 60 seconds extra. So if that works for you, we'll do 4 minutes in the room.
Okay. I'll open them now.
Yeah. Thumbs up. How did that go, everybody? Was it fun? Did you get some? I know we probably cut a few people off too soon and you wanted to chat more. And but yeah, anybody want to pop on? Give me like a sentence, a clear, tight sentence about your breakout. Be bold.
Cindy, I'll just say very quickly, one of the disagreements we had was whether or not executive presence is important in tech companies. And so 2 of us are from tech companies. One is more startup-y and one is more further along online. And so for us, I'm in the more company that's been around for a while, and executive presence does count more for us than it does in the startup atmosphere.
I've never heard that. That's so interesting. Why? I got to probe. Why
Yeah,
would
so the reason why we guess is that the startup, you're just trying to make a day to day, you're just trying to get through to the next week. Whereas the more mature company will now favor, I think, the executive that has that presence that can speak to investors and board members and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I would push back slightly, as you might expect, and say that every leader needs to have some level of trying to get upward toward that executive presence, because a leader who's starting off and doing a startup is going to propel the business forward faster if they can be clear and accountable to others and trustworthy and all these qualities. They lead us to different results depending on the size perhaps of our companies, and they bring different rewards. But it is, I would suggest anyway, and a way for us to think about growing ourselves professionally, no matter where in the business world we find ourselves. But that's a very interesting and unexpected comment. So thank you for sharing that. I love that. I love that. Okay. Let me not share my Slack channel. Let me find my presentation. This seems to happen to me sometimes when I get out of here. I just want to, I know we're at the end of our time today, everybody. I'm really grateful to you all for coming today and for being part of today and sharing your time with me. This is just a quick piece at the end that I wanted to drop in. I've got an event November 14th that's free. It's an MRI event. It stands for Message Review Intensive. That is in the link you found in the chat. We do an hour of looking backwards 12 months at your messaging to identify wins and gaps, and then we make a plan for 2025. It's a place to come and think, which is rare. We don't get a lot of space to think. And I have a gratitude special going on all November. And I've never done this before, but it's been a banner year for us at On Point. And this is an opportunity. If those of you who are interested in getting this type of support, or you know someone who is, climb into that Google Doc and check it out and see if one of those options, A or B, might sustain you going into 2025. And you can find me at LinkedIn. You can find me to book a call, a chat. I'd love to meet each of you individually after meeting with you today. And I appreciate so much your attention. Hope you found value here. I'd like you to drop one word or action that you're going to do leaving today. What was your 10% message from today? Can you leave that for me before you jump? And I'd really be grateful. And thank you for coming today. Thanks, Kat and Breen, for having me.
This was amazing. Thank you. And so I was just distracted because I was trying to type my my takeaway into the chat. I really appreciated this. I feel like I learned a lot. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for these really special gifts. And thank you everyone who came. And please do take Cindy up on her offer, and hope to see all of you in the Fourth Effect at Board Bootcamp, part of the community, in the community.
Don't forget the workbook, guys. That's a big, valuable piece. So you can download it, you can print it. It's got sentence starters in it. High five, go get them, go build your dream and get to your 2.0. And I look forward to getting to know all of you better. Thank you all.